True crime and other morbid topics are enjoyed by over 80% of the world, so it only makes sense that there would be a museum dedicated to the dark and gruesome parts of death. Hello, my name is Kayla McIntyre, and today I will be talking about the Museum of Death. The Museum of Death explores crime, death, and the afterlife. The Museum of Death has many exhibits that can answer several questions people could have over the topic of death. I have been interested in true crime for a long time and have studied many resources that make me credible to discuss this topic. In this tour, I will be talking about 3 different exhibits, including true crime, death and mortuary history, and the theater of death. The first exhibit I will be discussing will be all things true crime. Exhibit A will be all things true crime. The first thing I will be talking about is the many things the museum has over the Manson family. As said in the Los Angeles Times, the Manson family exhibit claims more prominent real estate than any other deathly display. The museum houses Manson family photos, crime scene photos from their horrific crimes, a quilt sewn by the family themselves, a baseball signed by Charles Manson, and potentially the creepiest item, Manson's ventriloquist doll. Also featured in the Museum of Death is the largest collection of the serial killer art in the world, as well as letters written by serial killers themselves. Newspaper articles and pictures from the O.J. Simpson case are also featured in the museum's California Death Room. Also featured in the California Death Room are many disturbing pictures of the Black Dahlia case. One of the most interesting exhibits in the museum is the Heaven's Gate Cult Collection. The museum features videos of the cult, a pair of Nike sneakers worn by a member, and even a recreation of the suicide itself, which includes a full outfit worn by a member, including a purple shroud, and even bunk beds that members were found on. Some other miscellaneous items featured in the true crime part of the Museum of Death include a pair of John Wayne Gacy clown shoes, jailhouse letters from Jeffrey Dahmer, many pictures and other memorabilia involved in celebrity deaths, and even a headwind model of JFK after the assassination. The Museum of Death also offers information on death and mortuary history. Exhibit B will be all over things the museum has on death and mortuary history. The museum has vintage mortuary equipment, including autopsy tables, embalming equipment, and even caskets. They even have a casket that would be used to hold children. The various vintage execution equipment, including guillotines and blueprints for the first electric chair, are also on display in the museum. One of the most popular exhibits in the museum would be the bone collection. The collection includes skeletons of the previously autopsied and even an entire wall of skulls. There are many videos playing around the museum, including videos on how to perform an autopsy, videos that depict many different kinds of death, and even a film called The Traces of Death, a documentary all about death. The decapitated head of Henry LeDroux, a French serial killer who was executed by guillotine for his crimes, is also on display in the museum. There are many photographs of death, and even many shrunken heads of what seem to be men are also on display. There are many different things that depict cannibalism, harsh punishment, body bags, and other creepy items in the museum. One thing the museum takes pride in is their collection of taxidermied animals. There are many pets that were owned by celebrities, and even a potbelly pig named Chaos. There are many other disturbing things in the Museum of Death, like the Theater of Death. The Museum of Death houses a special theater at the end of the museum, the Theater of Death. The Theater of Death portrays graphic clips of autopsies and graphic death footage, including real-life murders. When the rest of the museum comes to an end, viewers come across the theater, where they would sit in a funeral-style room and watch the disturbing, chilling videos. There are many reasons that people would like to visit the Museum of Death, whether it be out of curiosity or looking for answers. The Museum of Death could be seen as educational if you really think about it. There are many gruesome autopsy videos involved in this theater, which teach people about how autopsies and embalming really occur. The many videos of murders involved in the theater can lead to many unanswered questions on how and why people do horrific things. According to the Museum of Death website, there are many articles that state that the Theater of Death is potentially the most chilling part of the whole experience. If you believe you can make it through the many gruesome scenes in the museum, you surely can stomach the theater. The goal of this tour was to answer the many questions people have over the topic of death. In this tour, we discussed 3 different exhibits: true crime, death and mortuary history, and the Theater of Death. I hope that this tour has taught you about how interesting death and the afterlife is, whether it be gruesome or not. The Museum of Death confronts an uncomfortable topic that forces us to acknowledge the many things that lead to our ends. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed.